Let's bring in Jonathan Schanzer. He is Senior Vice President for Research at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Welcome. Thanks for coming in. What do you make of the president's decision, which he has now confirmed, that he called off a strike in mid-mission?
Well, there are probably two ways of looking at this, if not more, but I would say primarily there are going to be those who say that the president has lost deterrence, that the Iranians now see that they are able to walk all over him and that they'll continue to escalate tensions with some sense of comfort that perhaps the president doesn't have the stomach for conflict. There is another way of looking at this, however, and that is that the United States can use this to galvanize support from the Europeans and perhaps from other quarters around the world to show the international community that Iran is still aggressive, that Iran is deserving of the sanctions that we have on them right now. And these sanctions, let's just be very clear, are still taking a bite out of the Iranian economy. The political isolation, the economic isolation is working. And so we still have a plan that's been in place by the Trump administration. And it looks right now as if we're set to double down on that and perhaps even to recruit others to the cause.
Well, there are two interpretations you offered us. Which one do you side with?
Well, I think there's a bit of truth in both. I certainly think that the Iranians right now may see this as a green light and that the president may yet be forced to respond with force. But right now, he doesn't have to. He's taking his time. And by the way, it doesn't mean that he couldn't attack tomorrow or next week if he sees an opportunity. We are, of course, we're on no timetable here. So even though he's going to come under fire for having lost deterrence, he still has that ability. But I do see an opportunity right now that by not attacking, we could still recruit others in this important campaign of isolating Iran. Again, it's working. We can see that they're in deep trouble right now. Their currency is dropping, unemployment is rising, and they're potentially going to see a need to come to the negotiating table.
Well, take us through what you think the Iranian strategy here is, because as I look at it, it's one of escalation here militarily. Now, they want to retain deniability, but they've got the Houthis firing missiles. They've done something on the oil terminals. Then they go after the oil tankers. Now they've shut down an unarmed American drone that everybody, the U.S. military insists was in international waters. This seems to be a calculated gamble that they can escalate tensions in a way that will somehow get them off the hook on these sanctions. Is that what the strategy is?
It could be. I mean, look, first of all, I think it's important to just establish the sort of history here, which is that Iran for 40 years has been carrying out violence against the United States and our interests. I mean, just in Iraq and Afghanistan, we've seen Iran carry out asymmetric attacks, which have actually cost the lives of more than 600 American servicemen. So this is an extension of what we've been seeing by the Iranians for quite some time. The question that I would ask now...
This is an escalation. This is an escalation.
Absolutely.
There's no question. I mean, they don't shoot down unarmed American drones every day in international waters. That's what they did this week.
That's right. And they're also challenging, what we've been doing, which is ensuring the freedom of navigation in the Persian Gulf. And what that's doing is it's potentially setting oil prices higher. It's making insurance more difficult to obtain. So they're trying to, I think, make it more difficult for the United States to maintain the leverage that we have in the Gulf. And perhaps get us to stand down on some of these sanctions. In the meantime, threatening an asymmetric conflict that could really exact a toll on the United States. So we're seeing right now a United States that is treading carefully and, again, still leaving all of our options open, which, again, I don't think that we've lost anything so far. But certainly we could see the Iranians try to push things further.
Yeah, well, if that happens, it seems to me that there's going to be a moment of truth sooner or later. And as to your point about for President Trump, and as to your point about the Europeans coming around, I agree with you that would be a really good outcome here, or a good progress. But those countries are now going to meet with China and Iran and Russia soon to see if they can salvage the nuclear accord. So instead of moving towards President Trump, in fact, they're trying to salvage what the president has already gotten out of.
Well, it's interesting. You're absolutely correct. But on the other hand, we actually saw the Germans come out and verify the U.S. intelligence, which pointed to the Iranians being responsible for attacks on some of those vessels in the Gulf of Oman. And we also have, really interestingly, next week, a summit between the national security advisors of Russia, the United States, and Israel, where they're going to be talking undoubtedly about Iran and what the next steps are, not only about getting them out of Syria or potentially trying to, but the broader challenge that Iran poses to the region.
Do you see any sign at all that the Iranians are going to take up President Trump's offer to come to the table and actually talk to renegotiate the terms of the nuclear deal?
Look, it's hard to imagine that they will. And what the Iranians have said now very clearly is that all of this rests on the supreme leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei. For all the talk about moderates or about some sort of imperfect democracy inside Iran, we know that that's all not true. It all rests on this one man who is deeply ideological, deeply anti-American, and has said repeatedly that he does not wish to engage with the United States after the unraveling of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the Iran deal of 2015.
And if he doesn't do it, then they don't move. And so far, he doesn't seem to have any intention of doing that. Jonathan Schanzer, thank you for being with us.
Pleasure.